the CHCH and Parrot Media platforms. I'm Bubba O'Neill. Well, as you know, this podcast shines the spotlight on teams, athletes, coaches, and executives that come from, reside, or have made their mark here in the Golden Horseshoe. Today, we give our highest commendation to a special brand of sporting types from Burlington. In a number of days, the Burlington Sports Hall of Fame will officially induct their class of 2025. Here are the individuals that have taken their game to the highest level in the community. Field hockey ace Katherine Williams, wheelchair basketball star Brandon Wagner, soccer executive Les Bell, a basketball coach and touch football executive Dave Nelson, and props to the Burlington Blaze Junior A lacrosse team. Well, to celebrate what's going on at the Burlington Sports Hall of Fame, a couple of members that have been hardworking, I'm sure, getting ready for the big presentation. I guess that would be Tuesday at the Burlington Golf and Country Club. Rod Philp, of course, Chris Dooley. We saw you here last year, and I'm telling you from what I hear, this year's edition and this year's celebration will be as good as ever.
It always will be, and it just this is our fourth or fifth year involved, and it's just so exciting to see the quality of people, quality of athletes, and the builders that get into the hall.
And same thing to you, Rod. Like I'm going to tell you, I guess I'll ask you simply, why do we have a Burlington Sports Hall of Fame?
Great question, Bubba. It's something that we decided, or the executive committee prior to Chris and I getting on decided a while ago, that this is to support the community in sports, support the sports and building endeavors in the athletic community of Halton, specifically though the Burlington region, and let's celebrate their successes. So it's been going on for quite some time, and here we are again. I think we've topped ourselves again with the nominees who are going to be inducted on Tuesday.
Your thoughts there, Chris?
I think I believe it's 15 years that we've been doing it, and the whole area is a sports, like Hamilton, we were talking about it, like a great sports area, and Burlington is an offshoot of that Burlington decided that we don't want to be just in the Hamilton GTA area, but we want to be on our own.
Well, let's look at this. And, yeah, we will center it on Burlington, but we could look at it on the masses and extend it to even Niagara. But, yes. Yeah, for sure, Burlington, because I think it holds its own as well, too. I don't know about yourself, okay? I have this little 6-minute sportscast, as you know, for many years on the CHCH newscast at 6 and at one time at 11 o'clock. But in the 6 o'clock news part, I have a 6-minute segment. I am finding it at some point, when I first started, pretty easy to cover 6 minutes and then get into some international stuff. I am finding it more and more difficult these days because every sport, women or men, seem to include people from, in this case, Burlington. Like, this is becoming more and more difficult, I'm sure, for you to narrow down and pick athletes. There are so many in so many different sports.
And one thing I want to add is what you're saying is that it's very important that the media does cover local stuff. And that's the importance of halls of fame, that we can recognize the great people that are out there still doing what they do. Because a lot of times the media becomes the national, becomes the international, because there's so much happening at that area. But, yeah, there's a lot of great stuff at the local area for sure.
Yeah, and we can't thank you enough, Bubba, because at the grassroots level, you've been covering it in the Halton region, as we know, for decades, and we can talk about that a little later on. But maybe you should talk about a little bit, and I would like to talk about how the nomination of the inductees happens.
Exactly.
It's quite it's quite a process. So you're basically, anybody in the general public can nominate anybody they want. Then that is taken to our executive committee, where Chris and I sit on with some other great, wonderful people from the Burlington community. It is then narrowed down to a certain number of candidates, and then is voted on and decided by a selection committee through vote. And that's how it happens every year, and usually by the end of February is when we have our list of inductees, and we work it from there.
Well, I've sat in on a couple of those sit-downs. They can get kind of heated, right? I think everyone's got their opinion. And I think to anyone that has been nominated, especially if you know them, Chris, like you kind of want to push a little harder for that particular person to get in that particular year. But it all ends up being a wonderful consensus.
Absolutely. And at the end of it, on Tuesday, and every time that we have the induction ceremony, we just walk out with such pride in Burlington. And what I like, too, about that evening is that so many alum come back. Tony Gabriel comes every year. And like it's just an amazing process where we all celebrate sport in Burlington.
And there's also another award as well, too, that I'd like to establish as well, too, the Don Green Award as well, too, which is in itself is somewhat different.
Yeah, so the Don Green Award we had as something a little bit different, to your point, in terms of not just builders and athletes, but also support from the community. So, as you know, being a recipient of it, Bubba, you and our host for this year again, Steve Foxcroft, those are the give-backs that we want to talk about that aren't just, people who've done great internationally, but they're also people at the grassroots level, the community, as we had mentioned before. And the reason why we do have the Burlington Sports Hall of Fame. And that's who we like to honor this. And the recipient this year, wow, wait till we tell you about this team and what they're all about.
Super special. I find a lot of these get-togethers and the celebration and actual induction award, and if people are reading about many of these athletes prior to our discussion, it's like a history lesson. It is amazing. Yes, there's a lot of modern-day athletes, but it's also what I have really appreciated about what you guys have done is that you don't forget about Burlington's past as well.
Absolutely, and that's probably the biggest thing. And there's been articles that have been written about these people that are being inducted this year, and that process of researching their biographies it's just spectacular what they've done and the journeys that they've been on. And in my opinion, the 5 different people have all 5 different journeys that led them to Tuesday night in the Hall of Fame.
Well, I can't stop. I'm really excited. Let's get right into it. Katie Williams, field hockey ace. Let her rip, guys. Special athlete.
Yes, Katie Williams is a tremendous athlete. And the analysis I want to give is every high school anywhere, the first week of school, but there's announcements. Okay, we need junior football, like junior football at Assumption, I'm sure. Junior football, cross country, basketball, field hockey, all these sort of things. And they're just, if you're a grade 9 girl, you're going, what? Oh, I don't know what to do. And so field hockey for Katie turned out to be, well, you know what? Everybody is in the same boat because nobody's played field hockey much before. So I'm going to go out for field hockey. And out of that announcement and her going out for field hockey led her to represent Canada for years and years and years. And she went to at Notre Dame. She played at Notre Dame. Great athlete at Notre Dame, 3-sport at Notre Dame. But she went to U of T because there was a pipeline sort of Notre Dame kids that went to U of T. And U of T was a great, great team. And 3 times they won the OUA championship, and she was the goaltender for the 2010 CIS champion. And then from there, she went on to she was All-Canadian in 2013, her last year, and then Team Ontario, and then to the national indoor team that she did. And she won gold at the 2015 Pan Am Cup. And just an amazing story. And then added to that, she was selected in 2018 by there was a coaching clinic in Berlin organized by International Field Hockey, and they sponsored Katie to go to this workshop. And I just sort of admire that now she's coaching at MAC, she's coached the Ontario team, so she's giving back. But I can still picture that grade 9 having that the guts to go out for a team.
Well, and so established in so many ways. You play at the high school level, and that's the thing. I mean, let's be honest, too. I mean, field hockey is still a developing sport, maybe not so much around the world, but at least in this country, right? And she had the opportunity to play internationally, and she played at the high school level, at the collegiate level, representing the country. But like you said, and I do want to get into this a little bit, because, and we can say this about all of the inductees this year, giving back. The pay it forward mentality is alive and well with Miss Williams.
Yeah, absolutely. Because when you think about somebody that plays a sport, well, then give back. Because you had your career, now you have an opportunity to help others, and she's doing that.
And just before we finish, too, Bubba, Coach Dooley, Chris, my teammate here, he's being a little bit modest too, because he had a major influence on Katie as well, and he wouldn't say that here now, but he was such a leader at the Notre Dame facility that he was always involved with them, and so he had a lot to do with where she went to too. So I just wanted to add that on to say thank you, Coach Dooley.
It could be a reason why he's I think he's tearing up a little bit there, right?
I'm just honored for all of them, but when there's somebody that you know.
How can you not be a little emotional? Let's be fair here.
His nickname is Puddles, so.
Wheelchair basketball has become huge in this area. Brandon Wagner really took it to the next level as well.
Wow, and I'm not the most expert on wheelchair basketball, Bubba, but you're right. Brandon Wagner, what an athlete. Began his career with the Burlington Vipers basketball in 2002. He's a graduate of Aldershot. Go Lions. He's a team member of the under-23 men's national team in 2005. And then the Parapan Games in Rio de Janeiro. He won a silver medal with that team. Guadalajara, Mexico, a bronze medal. He was also at the University of Illinois Collegiate Champion and Student Athlete of the Year in 2009. He's been a member of the men's team, and he was also, what an honor, so because of the dedication, as we talked about in the give back, he was the torchbearer for at the Toronto Parapan Am Games in 2015. So, wow, what a career, what a legacy in that sport.
Yet another athlete that takes it from one level of their career as a young child, right? And playing at Aldershot High School, right? Yeah. When maybe he might have been the only one playing basketball, from the wheelchair based on, whatever disabilities that he had gone through, but challenges. And that's what I like about athletes like Brandon. They have not allowed their disability or whatever challenges they are facing to stop them from reaching the highest level.
One thing I would like to add that I admire in analyzing the journey of Brandon is that in 2000 he survived a car crash, and the car crash left him paralyzed. And when you think of that moment and the years and everything else after that, he turned that tragedy into his life's journey. And he's actually quoted as saying that if he was able-bodied, he wouldn't have been able to get as far as he did. So as an Olympian, a Paralympian, he was able to go see the world and do a lot more. And so he grasped that. I just really, really admire how somebody could take something like that and turn it into their life's journey.
Absolutely, and a true hero's journey, for sure.
Now I'm getting emotional. Right. Soccer executive Les Bell. I mean, Burlington, and I always think of Burlington and Oakville kind of as the same when it comes to youth soccer. Like, it's just so giant.
Yes.
Girls, boys, young, like little peewees, where 11 players are all running to the ball, right? Yeah. And 22 players are running to the ball. It's amazing to see. But boy, at a time where there were, at one time, two different associations in Burlington, Les is responsible for merging the two very, very big leagues and just making it into a powerhouse, and then spending so many years with this association.
Well, one thing that the Hall of Fame recognizes, and I'm glad that we do, is that builders are very, very important, because all these great athletes out there, if there isn't volunteers organizing and running clubs and teams and practice, all of that sort of stuff, there's nowhere to play. So I think that a big part of the builders category is the recognition of these people for what they have done. And Les was with the executive for 35 years. On the executive of Burlington Soccer Club.
If I can just stop you there, let's remind people, volunteer.
Yes.
That's right.
Yeah, volunteer for 35 years. He was president for 15 years. And one of the things that I like the best is that they merged and they formed what they call a club for all ages. So, like, my kids were involved in youth soccer, Burlington youth soccer, but then the adults, they made the men's soccer, and then it's really, really interesting. And the men's soccer, through Les's efforts, now has 84 teams with 1,500 people playing. So, again, back to when you think of all the success in Burlington soccer or soccer in this area or any sport anywhere, it does not happen without volunteers.
the word program, I think of as for a guy like that, with a bigger vision, understanding that, we just can't have this year. We need to develop a program, and that's how and hence why Burlington has been just synonymous with winning first place on provincial championships, national championships. It's because of the building of the programming and development of the program.
Yes, and to add on to you what you talk about, builders are still so crucial to our hall. Absolutely. Of course, we all remember the athletes and what they do, but there's so many builders/volunteers, to your point, Bubba, that are ultimately recognized. And I really believe the hall does a really good job of doing that here in Burlington.
Another builder. I've been fortunate to have a relationship with him that dates back many, many decades. And we shared it on television, actually. And, and I actually learned a lot about the sport of basketball. I mean, and he did so many other things from the likes of Dave Nelson and what he did when we did these Cogeco high school championship games. And anytime his team eventually got knocked out, which was always the first round.
Yeah. Sorry, Rams.
So he ended up getting beat on the television broadcast with Steve Foxcroft and myself. But anyway, to be serious, though, what Dave Nelson has done in the city of Burlington for sports, being football, touch football, which is massive, and basketball, is truly to be celebrated. Great man.
Well, one of the things that's interesting about the Hall of Fame is that his high school basketball coaching, and I coached against him a lot, and I remember going into Sheridan and you three guys were set up there, and it was awesome that Dave brought what Dave brought to help you and Steve along those broadcasts. But that's got nothing to do with the Hall of Fame. Mm-hmm. The 40 years involved with the BIG games has nothing to do with the Hall of Fame. And that's what I really admire about Dave, and I've known him for a long, long time. But it is what he did for touch football. And Rod and I both played in the touch football leagues in Burlington, and we played in the early bird tournament in May, and it's now called the Dave Nelson Early Bird Tournament.
As it should be.
As it should be, for sure. But we think of Dave Nelson in touch football in terms of like Burlington area and success and Golden Horseshoe Touch Football League and all that sort of stuff. But Dave Nelson is world. He in 1984 he went to Australia, and they formed what was called the Federation of International Touch. And so that's the international body to do touch football around the world, and Dave Nelson was a vice president of that. In way back to 1982, he was he won the Sportsman of the Year award in Burlington, and he's just done tremendous stuff for touch football. And again, not just Burlington, not just local, not just GTA, but worldwide, and very, very impressive.
And there's that V word that's so important. We've talked about Bubba and Chris. He was also awarded the Governor General's Sovereign Medal for volunteers in 2019, and Dave volunteers as much time as we can, and he was a pretty good touch quarterback. I remember back in the day, he could fling it a little bit back then, but no, something else. And you see Dave, he always time for everybody else, but to Chris's point, the involvement with touch football and other programs, sports in Burlington, and how many lives he's touched with it, both young and old. He's a special individual, and we're just so lucky to have him in our Sports Hall of Fame this year.
You just said it there, right? Because I can think of, my experience, obviously, with him, and we talked about it, but, as you said, we're celebrating him for what he's done in touch football. But when you extend it all, right, to what the man is, right? There are so many people that know Dave Nelson, whether it be from his coaching and teaching years, from the touch football years, and to a man, to a woman, people say great things or had great experiences with him. Yeah. And that, for him, I know it's a treat for him, because people remember him, and we all want to be remembered in many ways. But it's from what he did, as you said, the volunteering, the giving of time, the being a mentor, how important that has been for him personally.
And I think the word that I always think of with Dave in analyzing his induction is the idea of a pioneer.
Yeah.
Like he's an absolute pioneer. You can actually say that about touch football. That he's been the president of the Golden Horseshoe Touch Football Association for 45 years.
And this sport's huge in Burlington.
And it's huge.
It's huge.
Yeah, it is.
And the early bird tournament that we played in back in the day, in 2010, Touch Football Ontario took it over, and it's called the Dave Nelson Early Bird Tournament, and it's so it should.
I just think I'm thinking to the actual induction ceremony and knowing who the MC is, being Steve Foxcroft.
Yes.
With all due respect to all the other inductees, Dave might get roasted the most.
Oh, yeah.
from our guy Foxy.
Yeah.
Yes.
Hey, we talked about the Don Green Award and what that means, but this team that is going to be recognized, let's just say they tore it up. They're amazing.
So, as you know, this is the 2023 Burlington Blaze Junior A lacrosse team. So this is obviously box lacrosse, and they won the Minto Cup in their first try as coming into it with Coach Don McRae.
National championship, folks.
National championship. And knowing the history of the Minto Cup, and I was fortunate to play, and so was Chris, fortunate to play with a lot of athletes who played lacrosse, which, as we know, is Canada's national summer sport. So it was something that ice hockey players would play in the summer, so there were so many athletes. However, it's so huge across. I know they beat Orangeville in the final, and that is just a plethora and a hotbed of talent there that go there, and obviously in Brantford as well with the John Tavares as the uncle of the ice hockey player playing all down there. But what this team did is just it's beyond recognition. So I'm just so proud of them and Coach McRae. I can't wait to hear their speech and what they went through to go 5-0, because obviously I wasn't able to see it. But Chris, do you have anything further to add about this team?
Again, the process of winning the Minto Cup and the steps to get there, very, very impressive. And for them to pull off the championship in their first time at it is very, very, very impressive.
Because not only are you in the Minto Cup, which is the national championship, you've got your own division to win. Then you got to win an OLA championship, and then you got to win the national championship. And again, going back to what you said, we're talking about the development of a program. This is first-year stuff. This is new to everybody. Players that are coming together for the first time, coaches that are coaching together and coaching these players for the first year. The behind-the-scenes stuff, like this, as you said, and this is why it's so great, this award, because it celebrates not just the accomplishment of one, it's celebrating the accomplishment of the team and the franchise.
Exactly. And it's post-COVID, obviously. However, they obviously had to play prior to that and get to know each other and somehow form, and then, hey, here we go. Now we're able to do without any restrictions and stuff like that. I'm sure the Minto Cup had to take a few delays in terms of them, but wow, I like I said, I'm really looking forward to that speech and having Stevie pull some pearls of wisdom out of that induction for sure.
I'll tell you, this is a wonderful, wonderful class of people. Let's talk about the next one.
The final inductee this year is on the athlete side, and his name is Terry Martin.
Yes,
and he's a graduate of Nelson in Burlington. Go Lords! And he was an incredible story too. When you think about Terry Martin, his former coaches at Nelson had mentioned he would come out to some of the teams. He would come out to the football team. He'd come out to basketball team, and he was a pretty big body and liked to do it. However, this volleyball kind of came later on his career when he went out east and tried out.
Well,
Chris,
it's really interesting because I look at Terry's life and say, like, he's like a late bloomer that in his last year of high school, he went out for the prestigious West Side Volleyball Club, was very, very good at it, contacted the coach at Dalhousie and sent him a video and said, I'd like to walk on. So he walked on at Dalhousie, and this walk-on, and we both have been involved at the university level, this is hard, is that he was the AUAA and CIAU, now U Sports, Rookie of the Year, a walk-on. And then from there, it just, again, continued on. He represented Canada at the World University Games, 3 World Cups, 1 World Championship, and a 16-year pro career in Europe. And here he is in grade 11 thinking, what am I going to do?
Right.
Grade 12, I'm going to try some volleyball at the high level, and then away the journey begins.
I'm blown away by the fact that, you know, and the no fear attitude of doing that.
Yeah.
In the sense that, you know what, I believe in my skills. I think I can do this. Right? And you're up there against the best of the best, against some of these players, especially at that university level where, you know, teams have played together, coaches are used to their teams, and then impressing the coach and I guess the program leaders there to say, hey, we got to have a piece of this guy, and then to go on and be so successful is another great story. And again, as so many of these people that we've just talked about, all doing it so much on not just the local level, which we always appreciate, but making this something that they've accomplished on a world level, to me, blows me away.
And not knowing it, right? Like, we would know most of these people. I mean, we know a lot of the inductees, of the athletes, and the builders. However, like Terry Martin, until I did a deeper dive on, I would not know what he did. And then, wow, you're just taken aback by it.
Outstanding point. Because, yes, I mean, there's some people in the certainly when you file through the names of that have been inducted into the Burlington Sports Hall of Fame, you know, like a guy like Tony Gabriel, a guy like Taddy, like these are all people that we just identify with. Oh, I know him. Yeah. But there are stories. Yes. There are stories to be told, and with maybe twists and turns in their career that we will find out about, and that's why it's great to recognize these people.
And one of the things I like about our process of selecting these people is that it isn't like inside a bubble, that we put it out there that anybody can nominate anybody. Yep. Because we know our circles, like you're saying, but we don't know everything and everybody. So that's the process where it goes. Anybody can nominate, and it comes to the executive, and the executive passes it on to the committee that actually does the selection.
Well, you guys are doing a wonderful job. The event, I know it is a sold-out event. Doesn't take a lot of time to sell out that place for these events, but just let the public know about what's going on. I guess that would be next Tuesday.
Mm-hmm. Yep, Tuesday, May 27th. We get underway at around 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock for a little bit of mingling, and then 7 o'clock we start the festivities, the induction ceremony, and you can talk a little bit about our MC, who's back for, I think it's his third consecutive year. He's quite humble, that gentleman, but yeah, and it's at the Burlington Golf and Country Club on Tuesday, May the 27th.
You know, can I ask you, I mean, the selection of Steve Foxcroft as the MC is just brilliant, first of all, right? I mean, I say that as a friend, I say that as a guy that has worked with Steve for many, many years. But what I really love is the fact that you guys you adopted the sort of PGA sit-down method of having two big comfy chairs and having a conversation.
Yes.
Right? That we're all listening to, and Steve pulls out a lot of information through his questioning of these athletes, and I think it's a really open format that you guys have adopted, which I think works.
Yeah, I think it's really, really good because you can see that Steve goes off on a tangent based on what the other person said, so it comes very, very personal, and it's really, really well done.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was a back and forth brainchild of one of our heroes, our executive director, Lynn Patterson, who deserves so much credit, seldom does get credit, but
not
she
enough
loves being behind the scenes. But yeah, no, she's wonderful. So that was the brainchild of them doing back and forth, because just standing up at a podium, it's okay once in a while, but you know, you need.
I think it settles the nerves down of a lot of the people that maybe aren't so comfortable sitting in front of a podium with a microphone looking at a room of people. You sit down, you're relaxed. Steve is, he's always got some joke, and they're generally corny, right?
Oh, yeah.
Right, but it works, right?
And seldom can he sit still, so it works out even better for him. Right?
Guys, what you guys are doing at the Burlington Sports Hall of Fame is legendary, in my opinion, and I say that on behalf of the people that have been inducted. I say that in the people that are soon to be inducted. You know, I love community. This podcast is about people that have contributed to the community, and you guys are doing an outstanding job, Chris and Rod, and thank you for coming in and letting us know what's going on at the Burlington Sports Hall of Fame.
Thanks for having us, Bubba.
Thanks for having us.
Appreciate it. That's your Sportsline podcast for the day, and you've just seen and heard we love talking local sports. If you do know of an athlete, team, or event to promote the Sportsline podcast, we want to hear from you. Please hit the thumbs up, like, and subscribe button if you have something to say. We appreciate your comments always. For the wonderful people that make the Sportsline podcast possible, thank you so very much, and we'll see you tomorrow.